Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Classics with Courtney. And today I want to talk about the Spaghetti Western Dollar Trilogy. Directed by Sergio Leone, starring Clint Eastwood, and the score done by Ennio Morricone. Full disclosure, I was never a fan of Westerns. I can literally count them on one hand how many I liked. That would have been McClintock from, I believe, 1963, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969, and Tombstone in 1993. It wasn't until Turner Classic Movies did a recent documentary on Ennio Morricone that I decided to give those movies a watch. Yes, I watched those movies because of the score, but I ended up walking away with so much more. So let's go ahead and dive into these movies, shall we? Fistful of Dollars, released in 1964, is about a wandering gunfighter named Joe who arrives in a Mexican village in San Miguel amid a power struggle among Sheriff John Baxter and the three Bojo brothers. When a regiment of Mexican soldiers bearing gold is waylaid by the Rojo brothers, Joe is hired by Esteban to join the gang, but he plays one side against the other. I had so much fun watching this movie. It was a lot of fun. Clint Eastwood is awesome and cool, and the villain is, although amusing at times, can be quite terrifying. I also like some of the side characters. Pipperino, I believe that's his name, played by Joseph Edgar, and Silvanito, a man who attends his bar, played by Jose Calvo. I should go back and say Pipperito is a man who makes coffins but becomes a great ally to our hero Joe. My favorite moments here is when Joe confronts the men who shot at his horse when he comes to town, and it lets us know that Joe is no one that you mess with.
I don't think it's nice you laughing. You see, my mule don't like people laughing. It's the crazy idea you're laughing at him. Now, if you apologize like I know you're going to, I might convince him that you really didn't mean it.
I also love the moment where he helps a family in the village and he lets them go and says a very brief but poignant line.
Why do you do this for us?
Why? 'Cause I knew someone like you once. There was no one there to help. Now get moving.
And of course the climax, which is awesome. And I won't get into it because I want you guys to see it for yourself, but it is awesome. I basically have nothing but good things to say about this movie. However, I will say the one thing I didn't like was the moment where our villain is looking for Joe after he escapes from being brutally beat up, and he goes looking for him. Well, these people come out of the house escaping, saying, "I surrender, please don't shoot." And they shoot. Every single person leaving that house gets shot and killed. And what makes that scene harsh for me is the fact that the scene just drags, and the guy is having a lot of fun just killing these guys, and I just don't find that amusing. I felt that you just needed to do it for a few moments, maybe cut away to Clint Eastwood, maybe looking towards that scene, hearing it, and then he tells his buddy who makes the coffins to please go, because that's who he's escaping with. But the scene just goes on and on and on, and it literally was getting annoying and even made me sick a little bit. So that is one point in the movie I don't like. Other than that, I really enjoyed the film. It's a great fun film. It's a great spaghetti western, and Clint Eastwood is so awesome. These are actually the first Clint Eastwood movies I've actually ever seen, and I'm becoming quite a fan of him very quickly. So this was the movie that made me appreciate Westerns. How did the sequels hold up? For a Few Dollars More was released in 1965, and this one ups the stakes. In the Wild West, a murderous outlaw named of El Indio, Gia Mario Volente, and his gang are terrorizing and robbing the citizens of the region. With a bounty on El Indio's head, two bounty hunters, Monco, played by Clint Eastwood, and Colonel Douglas Mortimer, played by Lee Van Cleef, come and collect the prize. Upon their first meeting, the two men view each other as rivals, but they eventually agree to become partners in their mutual pursuit of the vicious criminal. This movie was so incredibly awesome and a great follow-up to the first movie. Clint, once again, is very likable and very awesome, but we also get the other protagonist, Colonel Douglas, and he is also quite awesome. Their first meeting together is actually one of the best moments in the film, but I gotta go back a little bit. When they first spy each other, looking at each other through the window, Clint with his binoculars and the Colonel with a spyglass. Both are kind of amused, although I think Van Cleef looks a little bit more intimidated while Clint looks amused. Their first initial meeting, though, happens at night, and both end up doing a shootout with their hats. One of those poor hats. They eventually come to a truce and they both become partners. And this is what makes their meeting also cool. They share a drink together and it is just a really sweet moment. Poor Clint Eastwood gets beat up again in this one, but not nearly as bad since his buddy also has to get beat up by the bad guys. So although they both get beaten, they don't get it nearly as bad as Clint did in the first movie. Our villain here is also way worse than our first villain. He is cruel, he is malicious, and he is just truly awful. What's interesting about this villain, though, is that he does something that drives one of our heroes' motivation. For this segment, I am going to officially announce spoilers because after watching it from this weekend, I have to talk about this because it has been in my mind. It has not left. I have dissected the scene several times in my head, and I just have to get it out there and talk about it. So, spoiler alert now, and you can click on the timestamp below to skip the spoilers. So, follow at your own discretion or skip to the time zone, and I'll see you later in the video. Monco and Colonel Douglas have a chat about their partnership, and we get a hint as to what motivates the Colonel, but he doesn't specify as to why he wants El Indio. We then see a flashback from Indio's perspective where he sees a couple, shoots the man, hangs off the women's garments. That's all we get at that moment. That is right up to the start of the climax. Monco and the Colonel are gunning down the gang and leaving Indio alone with one other gang member. Indio stares at a pocket watch, which he carries and uses it during his challenges. His gang member asks about it, and we get another flashback. This time, it's in full. He assaults the poor woman that was there, and she takes the weapon that was right beside her and takes her own life. The climax begins after Indio shoots the gun off of the Colonel and begins his pocket music. We, the audience, know this man is brutal, and there is no way the Colonel would win since the gun is on the ground. One false move and he would be gone. However, as the music slows, the music picks back up in another area. Monco has the other pocket watch, the other one that was held by the Colonel, the exact same watch. So now we know there is a connection there. Now it's 2 against 1. Monco hands Colonel Douglas his gun and sits off to the side with another gun in handy. The music swells and bang! Colonel Douglas shoots and gets his revenge. He then walks over to Indio's body and takes the locket from his hand, and as he looks at the locket, there is a photo inside. A photo of his beloved sister. This scene right here made me love the film. I already loved our protagonist from the beginning, for the most part. I was questioning Van Cleef's character at first, like, okay, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? But the more you watch, the more you understand, no, he's a good guy, for the most part. And you root for him. There is that motivation that you can understand. A beloved family member was taken away by this ruthless killer, and he has to go after him. It is a poignant moment. And that scene made me, at first it just made me my eyes water, because once this happens and he goes into that circle and the villain, we know this villain has done this in an earlier scene, and you know there's going to be little to no chance that he'll survive. Once Monko walks up with that locket, he knows he's done for, because he is on the Colonel's side. He knows you're dead either way. It is a great moment seeing this villain finally start to get his comeuppance. It's amazing. But another moment that I wanted to talk about was when he sees that Monko has the locket. It almost looks like his lip trembles. He's still emotional because of the loss of his sister, even though he's a big, tough guy. And then after his revenge is taken and he goes to take the locket back and he looks at it, and his thumb touches that locket. It is a heartbreaking moment. And this is one of the big things I think Hollywood has missed, especially in the past several years. You always hear the theme, show, don't tell, the saying, show, don't tell. This is exactly what made the movie more powerful. If we were told what happened, it wouldn't have had the same impact. We could still understand the motivation of the Colonel, but it would have not have made it as impactful as it did. The fact that we see what this man did to her, we see how she handled that situation, and we see the motivation and what this character meant to our other protagonist. It is heart-wrenching. It is powerful. And like I say, it made me cry. It literally, I think my eyes watered during the start of that climax, but then once he gets the pocket and that music goes, the music in that moment is so beautiful and breathtaking. And I bawled my eyes out. I have also tried watching reactions to this movie, and I've noticed no one ever really gets emotional. Am I the only one that cried during this movie? Let me know in the comments below if anyone else has cried during this movie, because I want to know. Bottom line though, this was such a great movie. This is how you build a great arc for a character. This is how, everything can come together. It's just such a great sequel, a great movie. I loved it, and I do recommend you guys see it if you have not seen it. So the first two movies were a great hit with me. What about the big third one? The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, released in 1966. In the Southwest during the Civil War, a mysterious stranger, Joe, played by Clint Eastwood, and a Mexican outlaw, Tuco, played by Eli Wallach, form an uneasy partnership. Joe turns in the bandit for the reward money, then rescues him just as he's about to be hanged. When Joe's shot at the noose goes awry during one escapade, a furious Tuco tries to have him murdered. The men re-team abruptly, however, to beat out a sadistic criminal in the Union Army to find $20,000 that a soldier has buried in the desert. I won't lie to you guys, and I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but I didn't care for this one. I think what got me was, although Van Cleef does come back, he's supposedly a different character. He goes under the name of Angel Eyes, at least that's what Tuco calls him. And he becomes this ruthless bounty hunter almost, which is interesting because in the second movie, because of the motivation he had, he actually says in his first actual meeting with Clint that life is precious to him. And yet in this movie, he's killing people without no thought. So, okay, is he a different character? But then later we see him with Clint Eastwood again, and they both almost have a mutual respect as if they actually did work together. So, is he still the same guy but under a different name? I don't know. And I think one of the things that bothered me about this movie too was I was hoping that yes, he'd come back, but that he would be able to partner up with Clint again, like he promised in the end of the second one. When Clint asks him, well, what about our partnership? And he looks at him and goes, maybe another time. Okay, that would have been perfect. You guys bring them both back together. They go on another adventure. It would have been so cool. Unfortunately, we don't really get that. Yes, they do partner up, but they're literally on screen together for maybe 10 minutes before the climax. And that's about it. But instead of another good protagonist or a returning protagonist, we get Eli Wallach as Tuco. I wasn't a fan of him. Granted, he can be funny and he can be amusing in some areas, but I really didn't like him when he actually tried to kill Joe in the desert. I was so mad. And every time, Joe would try to get water, he would dump it or prevent him from drinking water. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, okay, yeah, he did leave you alone at one point, but he actually told you that there was a town so far. You made it to the town. So you killing him is really worse than what he did to you. And the makeup job does a great job here too, because he looks like he's been burnt and scaled from the sun. And I just wanted to jump in the movie and rescue him, literally. I felt this way during the Paul Newman moment in Cool Hand Luke when he was trying to bury or dig the hole and then put the dirt back. Oh my gosh, that scene made me so mad. Despite my dislike for the character, though, Eli does do a good job with the role, and he brings his own humor to it, which does make him less unlikable, if that makes sense. But I still initially don't really like him. And I actually, at one point, I was hoping he was going to die, but spoiler alert, he actually does not die. So I guess there's that if you really like the character. Once again, we got the awesome Clint Eastwood, but I feel like in this film, he plays more of a backseat to Eli Wallach, and I don't care for that. He was the best part in the first two movies. He's basically the main character in the first two movies. In this one, he has to share the screen with Eli Wallach, and Eli's the one that takes up most of the screen time, as well as most of the dialogue, I think. So, I don't know. I didn't really care for that either. I wanted to see more Clint. I also felt that the film ran a little bit too long for my taste. While the second one did run a little longer than the first one, and I did start to feel the length a little bit, it still entertained me and it still kept my attention. With this one, although I only picked up my phone maybe once or twice, it still was more boring than the other two. That's the thing, too. This one became more of a treasure hunt. I didn't want a treasure hunt. If I want a treasure hunt, I'm going to watch The Goonies, another good movie, but I might add. Or if you want another treasure movie, go watch Treasure Island. But I didn't want to see these two characters go for a treasure hunt. I don't know. I guess it's just a little bit more disappointing since the first two was fun and had an emotional punch in either way you look at it. There's no emotional punch in this third one. It's just a treasure hunt. There is killing and gunslinging, which if you're into that, fine. But to me, it just really wasn't my thing. My favorite moment, of course, in this movie is when Tuco finds the cemetery and the music swells up. That piece of music is so good, and I recently purchased it for my phone. It is such a good musical piece. All in all, this is a good trilogy, and I must say, why is this not ranked on higher lists as a trilogy as opposed to so-called trilogies like Star Wars or even Lord of the Rings, which I also recently watched, and I had a lot of fun watching Lord of the Rings. But why isn't this linked as part of a good trilogy? Because it is a good trilogy, whether you like a film or not. They're all great movies. And that wraps up my review of the Dollar Trilogy. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of these films. Which ones are your favorites? What did you like and what didn't you like? And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Have a great, wonderful day.